Alabama just won one of the craziest games you will ever see over Georgia. Let's talk about it here on Four Verts. I'm Harrison Graham. You're watching Four Verts, a college football and NFL channel here on YouTube where we react to all the big games, cover storylines throughout the week, and bring you videos here on a daily basis. If you want that for free, plus more content, YouTube Shorts, and other stuff, hit the subscribe button. It's 100% free. I got you covered on a daily basis. Are you kidding me with that game? Number 4 Alabama survives 41-34 over Georgia in a game in which they led 28-0 at one point in the second quarter. It looked like Kirby Smart might take the worst loss of his coaching career. And then Georgia kind of just hangs around, sticks in it. It was 30-7 at halftime, but you kind of felt like they found a little something late in the second quarter and just slowly chipping away. And Bama definitely missed some opportunities in that third quarter to put the game away. I think Carson Beck, who ended up with 4 turnovers, we'll talk about him, had a fumble at one point, and Bama got the ball on the plus 50 up 33-15, and they failed to get a first down and at least get a field goal there. But this is one of the craziest games I've ever watched. I'm not going to say it's the best game I've ever seen because at times it was sloppy, and other than the last 5 or 6 minutes, neither team played great at the same time, but who cares? The last 5 or 6 minutes were amazing, and that's what makes this sport incredible. I mean, it was, like I said, 30-7 at halftime, 33-15, I believe, entering the fourth, and Georgia actually took the lead 34-33. They didn't get the 2-point conversion. And Bama, on the next play, Jalen Milroe, who had a crazy first half but didn't do much in the second half until this play, threw just really a one-on-one go ball to 17-year-old Ryan Williams up the right sideline. He tracks the ball, comes back, catches it, spins away, beats 2 defenders to the end zone for a 75-yard touchdown. They get the 2-point conversion. And then Georgia drives all the way back down, converts a 4th and 2, and then Carson Beck unnecessarily just throws a jump ball one-on-one in the end zone, and it gets picked off. And he kind of got away with one too many. You know, as they were rallying late, it was a lot of one-on-one kind of jump ball type of plays that his receivers were making. Don't get me wrong, he made a lot of plays as well, but just threw it inside, not a good location. Didn't feel necessary with like 50 seconds left when they snapped that ball inside the 20. And Bama ultimately survives. But this was a thriller. I mean, I can't imagine, if you're a fan of either of these teams, what the roller coaster of emotions were. I mean, with 10 minutes left, or really with 3 minutes left in the first quarter when Bama takes a 21-0 lead, Georgia fans are probably like, I'm hitting the bar. I'm going to go have a couple cocktails because I believe in my team, but this ain't our night. And then slowly but surely they find a way to come back. And then if you're on the Bama side of things, you're riding high 10 minutes in. You're thinking you're the team to beat in college football, which maybe they are. And then they just kind of lacked that killer instinct in the second half. I mentioned the inability to add points after that Beck fumble. Also, when Bama was up 33-28, Kalen DeBoer decided to punt the ball away, even though his defense was reeling on a 4th and 1 at their own 35, I think it was, somewhere in that range. And Georgia, next play, Carson Beck, pump and go, little slot go ball, and it was a 70-yard touchdown. And then the next play was the Ryan Williams touchdown. It's hard to describe this one because Carson Beck, who I'd be fascinated to see how scouts evaluate him tonight because for 3 quarters, he was terrible. He really was. And I don't even think at the totality of the game he was good, but I think where scouts and teams will kind of, across the NFL, will give him props and eyes, he kept battling. I mean, they were a play or two away from really getting blown out in this game, and he ends up throwing for 439 yards and 3 touchdowns. Now, he threw 3 picks and had a fumble. He wasn't good, but to hang in there and find a way late to give his team a chance, I'll give him some props for that. I think he's got a long way to go Some people had him as the top QB in this draft heading into the season. I don't think that's the case right now. But I think if you're Kirby Smart in Georgia, even though you lost, you're not happy tonight, but I think you're going to bed thinking, okay, this was almost a disaster, especially coming off a game where you almost lost to Kentucky. To fight and only lose this game by one score in Tuscaloosa, I think has to count for something. And if you're Georgia, I think you feel okay about yourself at least being a playoff team at the end of the season. Although they have some tough games. They still have Tennessee, Texas, and Ole Miss on the schedule. But what a win for DeBoer, Milroe, and Alabama. I mean, I think Milroe and DeBoer are the story tonight, along with 17-year-old receiver Ryan Williams, who had a $177 in that long touchdown. Him and Jeremiah Smith at Ohio State, 17 and 18 years old. I mean, they could play in the NFL right now. They're that good at the receiver position. But Milroe definitely put himself in the Heisman kind of front runner category tonight, along with Travis Hunter. Those would be my top two guys. Tough to have who's on top. I mean, Milroe's playing higher leverage games, obviously, but Travis Hunter, who we'll talking about in a little bit, he's doing crazy stuff, playing both ways. But Milroe, 27 to 33, 374, 2 touchdowns and a pick. Also rushed for 117 yards and 2 touchdowns. It's a pretty special performance. Now, I thought Georgia did a pretty good job on him in the second half, containing him running the ball. I think he ran for 102 in the first half, so he didn't really run around in the second half. And even on that last one-on-one go ball, it was a nice catchable ball, but that was really more Ryan Williams. So you take that away. I thought Georgia and Kirby found some adjustments at halftime. They did a pretty good job defensively to keep this game somewhat within reach, and ultimately found a way to get back into it as Carson Beck started to hit some bombs downfield. But it's just, even for Georgia, it's hard to erase 28-0. And the fact that they took a lead is pretty remarkable. So, great game. Big picture takeaways. Should Bama be number one? You could certainly argue it. I mean, you'd have to say this is the best win in college football. I don't think Texas has done anything to lose that ranking necessarily, but without Quinn Ewers, they haven't looked as good. They kind of messed around with Mississippi State today. So if I were voting, probably go Bama 1, Texas 2. I mean, I'd probably still put Georgia 3rd if I'm being honest. I think they answered the bell in that second half in this game, but there's very much a chance these two play again, and that's the beauty of the 12-team playoff. That's the beauty of divisionless SEC. I know they were in opposite divisions before anyway, but there's a possibility both are on the table and meet in the SEC championship game in Atlanta. So this was awesome. I think for Bama, a couple things they're going to have to improve on throughout the season. I know they had 3 interceptions, but that secondary's young. It's inexperienced in some spots. Beck figured some things out in the second half, so be curious to see if some teams can find success vertically against Bama. Like if Texas, for example, played Alabama in the SEC title game, they don't play in the regular season. But if Ewers is healthy with those speedy receivers, including former Bama receiver Isaiah Bond, you feel like Texas could really exploit that secondary. But if Jalen Milroe is playing like this, I think with DeBoer now, they can play in these shootout games. They're comfortable doing that. So what a game, what a night. College football delivers once again, and it's just a blast to watch. Absolute blast. Some tidbits on a couple other games. Quietly, Kentucky with the upset of the year. They go into Oxford and beat Ole Miss 20-17, 2 weeks after almost beating Georgia. That's a pretty resilient win for Mark Stoops and company. Ole Miss moved the ball decently throughout the game, but just could not get over the hump and finish drives. Missed a field goal late that would have likely forced overtime. It was under a minute left. Kicker yanked it about a mile left. Never was close. It's a pretty bad loss for Lane Kiffin. I know Kentucky's clearly solid. Their blowout loss to South Carolina kind of feels fluky now looking back at it, considering they almost beat Georgia and they won this game, but you can't lose this game at home if you're Lane. And that's kind of the problem with Kiffin. Now, with the 12-team playoff, they're very much still in the mix, but this is not a game on the schedule where you're thinking, okay, we could probably lose 2 games and still get in. Oh, chalking one up to Kentucky is not what you drew up. So, Lane has been susceptible to these type of random losses over the years. So, definitely a setback for Ole Miss. And while they looked great the first few weeks, they played nobody. And the first decent team they play, they put up 17 points. So that was a bit of an eye-opener to me. Penn State pulls away late, 21-7 over Illinois. This game was 7-7 for a while. They added a touchdown at late third quarter, touchdown like in the last minute or two of the fourth. I thought the 19-point spread was outrageous, and for most of this game, this was either tied or one score. So, as I thought, Illinois hung around here, but Penn State, like they do most years, they have a lot of pros on their defense. Abdul Carter and those guys can really make plays. They dominated in this one, and kudos to Brett Bielema and his crew going into Happy Valley and hanging around. If they could have just made a couple more plays, I think a big moment in this game was early third quarter. It's 7-all. Illinois drives down and attempts a field goal, and they miss it. And then Penn State scored, I think, the next drive. You go up 10-7, pressure ramps up a little bit. Penn State's pinned back on the next kickoff potentially. Maybe things go differently, but they found a way to put a drive together there. And then their defense just teed off on Luke Altmaier the rest of the game and ultimately found a way to win. So Penn State firmly in the top 10. I'm not a Drew Aller guy. He's just underwhelming to me, but he didn't turn the ball over tonight. So if he plays turnover free with their defense, they're going to have chances to win a lot of these games. All right, some other college football reaction before we get out of here. Travis Hunter. I know what Milroe did tonight, Jalen Milroe. That's going to be a lot of the talk, the Heisman, all that stuff, and it's certainly worthy. I think there's a clear top two in the Heisman race right now, and whatever you want, Travis Hunter, Jalen Milroe, Travis Hunter. It's a tough call. Now, I will say, Colorado's quietly 4-1 now. I don't know if they'll be ranked this week, but they'll probably be getting votes, and they have a big game against Kansas State next week. What Travis Hunter is doing is pretty incredible. He's playing over 120 snaps a week. Today, he had 89 yards and a touchdown on offense, had a sick interception on defense, went down and did the little Heisman pose. He is unreal. If he plays 12 games and is healthy and is playing both ways the whole time, which he will if he's healthy, he is a lock to be a Heisman finalist regardless of what Colorado's record is. But if they can win 7, 8, 9 games and at least be a competitive team in the Big 12, which it's starting to look like they might, next week against K-State is huge. If they could win that game, that would go a long way. He's going to have a chance to win this thing because he's the Ohtani of football. He's a top 5 receiver in the country and a top 5 corner in the country. He's not just playing both ways, he's an All-American both ways. So if he can keep doing this, I get Jalen Milroe is going to play in higher leverage games. Cam Ward, I would have third. Maybe he plays in some more important games down the stretch than Travis Hunter will, but it would be hard for me to vote against that guy right now because to me, Heisman is kind of like most valuable. Like, where would Colorado be without Travis Hunter? I mean, that guy is unbelievable. At the end of the day, Alabama's Alabama. I'm not saying they would have won this game without Jalen Milroe. In fact, they wouldn't have, but they'd still be a 9-10 win team without him in all likelihood. Colorado without Travis Hunter, and quite frankly, Shedeur Sanders too. I know he annoys people, but he's pretty damn good. Those two guys are carrying a program. I mean, I've been kind of sour on Colorado. They're 4-1 now. I mean, if they go like 8-4, and Hunter's putting up huge numbers, picking off passes, gonna be hard to not give that guy the Heisman Trophy. But hell of a night in the college football world, and get to do it all again tomorrow in the NFL world. So we'll have coverage on that as well. Be sure to subscribe. My name is Harrison Graham. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button and give us a sub on the way out. It's free. We'll see you guys next time. Peace.